Wired for Story by Lisa Crone is a delightful read for any budding writer. It's almost a tutorial on how to write stories that people want to read, and is filled with examples and explanations. Each chapter focuses on a specific issue that writers may have, or a topic that should be included in every beginning writer's story. I won't cover the whole book here. For this presentation, I'm going to cover the main points of the first 7 chapters. Chapter 1. Why? Why do stories hook us? How can a book make us forget that the world is going on around us? Stories allow us to simulate intense experiences without actually having to live through them. That's the main point of this chapter. A good book lets you kill a dragon without getting burned. It puts you in the mind of the character. It puts you in the story. You fight the dragon. You save the princess. You save the day, and then you get to put the book down. But why? Why does this work? And so well. Strangely, an answer may lie back in the old days. Not those old days, like way older. Yeah, those old days. Humans evolved storytelling as a form of communication, not only as entertainment, but as a survival tactic. The hunter who got away from the jaguar lived to tell about it, and the hunters who listened learned to run away from the impending jaguar doom. But why does that still matter? That was like a bajillion years ago. How does that affect us today? As Lisa Crone says, story is the language of experience. Because if all we ever had to go on was our own experience, we wouldn't make it out of onesies. That's why. It's how we as feeble but intellectual humans learn and grow. Chapter 2. So, okay, stories exist, but there are a bajillion stories out there. Why should I listen to any one of them? Because they matter to us. No one specific story matters to everyone. That's why genres exist. People have a vast variety of interests, and people listen to the stories that apply to those interests. More importantly, every good story, no matter what genre, has a very specific element of change. The world at the beginning is somehow different from the world at the end. That change is what makes the story. Otherwise, the events in the story don't matter. There's more to that would be better explained in Chapter 5. But for now, Chapter 3. People want to feel what the protagonist feels. That's not just a reiteration of the idea stated in Chapter 1. Stories allow us to simulate intense experiences without actually having to live through them. While that's very true, the problem for writers lies in just how to do that. How does a writer let strangers into the minds of their characters? A seemingly simple way to get that out there is to just show exactly what the character does as their reaction. Dave is sad, so he cries. Not exactly Pulitzer material. One of the best ways to show a character's reaction is by describing their feelings, from the inside, not just on the outside. Dave couldn't handle any of this right now. He couldn't breathe. The whole world was crashing down on him, but he could barely feel it. He was tempted to let it all fall down on him just to see if he could make him feel again. I may have gotten a bit carried away with that, but it kind of gets my point across. Chapter 4. What does the protagonist really want? This isn't just the generic philosophical question, what do humans really want out of life? No, in this case, it's specific to the story. What does the character want out of their world, of their story? What is their goal? This isn't only important as to how the character progresses through their story, but also how the characters evaluate other characters. The main character can see others as enemies or allies based on whether they will hurt or help the main character achieve their goal. Also, the story is created from obstacles that always have something to do with keeping the protagonist from achieving their goal. That's the story right there. Somebody could probably write like 100 pages about the dragon hunter arguing with the street merchant about how the price of sheepskin is way too high. But none of that matters to the story. What matters is the struggle, the climb over the mountain, the sad goodbyes as the hero embarks on the quest, the final fight, all that. The thing is though, none of that is the actual story. That's just plot. Turns out, there's a difference. The plot is, the dragon hunter hunts dragons. But why? Anyone can hunt dragons. Why this one dude? Because of his goal. His real goal, above all others. His outer goal, kill the dragon. His inner goal, keep his village, his family, and his honor. Now that's a story. Chapter 5. What is the protagonist's inner issue? Now this might seem like that cheesy trope of how the real enemy was in you all along. You are your own worst enemy. Your only enemies are your own inner demons, that kind of thing. Well, it is, but there's a better way to explain it. A story isn't just about reaching a goal. It's about fixing something. Something within the character. Call back to Chapter 2. The reason stories begin when they do for the protagonist is because story starts, as Lisa Crone says, the moment his worldview was knocked out of alignment, along with the inception of the desire it thus thwarts. The dragon hunter didn't just decide to hunt dragons one day. There's a very specific personal reason. It might be because he's been burned by a dragon before, or he was the sole survivor of a village that was burned down, and all that was left were his childish cries and a distant dragon's roar. A story always starts before page 1. It starts when the hero makes his decision to go on his journey. Chapter 6. The story is in the specifics. Stories have to mean something to the reader. Another callback to Chapter 2. But this time it means that stories have to be written in a way that readers can understand, something they can empathize with. A story can be about the philosophical question of what meaning exists in an individual's existence. Something like that. But that's just a bunch of concepts that kinda make sense and kinda don't. To make a better story out of it, the concepts must be brought down to the human level of understanding. Thus, metaphors exist. A story of survival, loss, and redemption is better written as a story of a survivor, defeated, and redeemed. A dragon hunter who lost everything and fights on to keep his village safe, to be the hero he wished he was before it was too late. Chapter 7. Conflict. Every story is something versus something. Self versus self. Self versus nature. Self versus enemy. All that. There are many different ways to create conflict in a story, but the core idea there is that conflict is always over change. As I said before, stories are about change, but there's always someone who doesn't like change. Thus, the antagonist is born. The hero's goal is always to change something. The antagonist wants to fight that change. The dragon hunter wants to rid the world of dragons, and obviously the dragon wouldn't like that. The key to making conflict work, however, is not in the idea of one fighting another, but the suspense, the time in between the start and the end of the conflict. The reason people keep reading through a story is because they don't know the ending. On paper, dragon hunter versus dragon seems like it could be an easy win, but there's no story in the hunter killed the dragon, or the dragon kinda shoot him away until he stopped bothering him. But suspense is created when there's doubt in it, when there's a maybe, when we don't know if the hunter will win. And that's my take on the first 7 chapters of Lisa Crone's Wired for Story. If you like the ideas here, or if you plan on writing a good story, it's pretty good. I liked it. Go out and write something.